What's up, family? Light Shine here, and welcome back to another episode of EXTOL WE. And this week, my grandma, Josh, and Carling are my extras, and I am the ordinary. I want to do an investor report on our Q1 through Q3 numbers in my video, Soccer to Baseball. I did an update on how many people had been added to the world population since the first time that I did the little bleep of what's up, fam. And I reported that there was 130,072,377 people from my first time I flashed that number to my video in Soccer to Baseball. So I went back and calculated all of the numbers in the quarters up to this last third quarter. In quarter number 2, there was an increase of 146,425,926 people. And our Q3 numbers that came on with the posting of episode 91 was 173,570,434 for a total increase in population since the time I started Extraordinary Life with Elijah and flashed that number for the first time. 450,068,737 people. And I've updated my calculation with all of those quarterly numbers. My Q4 estimated number that's going to come in by the end of this process is going to be 216,648,880 people for a total final number of population of the earth. This is my projected ending number, which my number that I guessed a long time ago is off. My new final guess is going to be 8,443,412,633 people at the end of all of this. So the beautiful thing about this is that I visit my app online often and to intercede and to pray. And it's so beautiful to see the plans of my Father working in the earth, that from one man, he's made every nation of men and established the times and places for them to live so that men could seek him, reach out to him, and find him, though he is not far from each one of us, for in him we live and move and have our very being. It's been God's intention from the very beginning that men would be close to him and be able to find him, see him, hear from him, and to rule with him on the earth. I love giving my numbers on my investments, on watching my ticker tape in the earth, of seeing my Father's plans work, that from one man that he has increased the number of people in the earth almost 8.3 billion people and climbing now. He is hammering his image and likeness into the earth, that he is destroying the works of darkness through the appearance of man in the earth at over 4 people into the earth every second. So awesome that until God reveals truth to you, you cannot see what he is doing, but that it's our privilege, it's our responsibility to take prophetic words that God places in our lives, steward those forward in time until such time that he reveals the fullness of them. In Soccer to Baseball, again, I say at the beginning of that video that it's the first time that I started a video without closing my eyes and opening my eyes, and I had no idea what that meant. I stewarded that forward, and then God revealed to me the beauty of sitting with Jamin at the end of this entire process with my little man, and that we established an cutting off of the closing our eyes, opening our eyes, that our eyes are wide open in that era, and that God, through Jamin in this last week and all the things that God revealed, showed me that in that video that went live then and now, and all the things that he did in this last week, that God is giving me a clear-sighted insight into what he's doing in the future, and that he established that. And then, friends, you cannot see things until God reveals it. That then in the next videos that went live this last week, Questions of Faith, connected to another video 3.5 years ago in the past called Right versus Life-Giving, that in that video, Questions of Faith, that I established the pattern that I realized that I had been doing my eye opening and closing sounds wrong, that my lamp took 2 clicks. You click once and then twice to turn the light on. And so I established in that very next video a change in how I approach my videos from then clear through to the end, that I would close my eyes in the darkness. You'd hear a click at the beginning of the videos that would go live in the present back 3.5 years ago, and then click. Another one that when my eyes would open. So click, click, and that those two clicks were my eyes going closed in a place of darkness and in mystery that was being hidden, and then the click that you would hear 3.5 years ago in the past was then my eyes opening into the manifest revelation of what I was speaking in that time and space, forward looking to here now in 2025. The beautiful aspect of that is that our eyes are closed, moving forward into the darkness of mystery, but our eyes are opened then in the light of God's manifest goodness and the revelation of what Holy Spirit has declared that is yet to come. Then in that space then, friends, we can look backwards in time and see what God established in the clarity of his glory shining in the here and now. My three people, my grandma, Josh, and Carling, so beautiful to see how that is all coalesced together in this aspect of questions of faith connected to this manifest revelation of right versus life-giving. Family, the very first picture that I ever drew where my family was so impressed with the picture that I made was this picture of a jaguar. It was in one of my school books. Something about it captivated my heart. And so I just sat there and I just started like drawing the picture, and it turned out so well that I showed it to my mom. Then my grandma came over later that week and I showed it to her, and her eyes just fly open. She's like, honey, this is incredible. And I remember in that moment, rather than saying, I'm so proud of you, this is an amazing picture, that my grandma said, honey, God is going to do amazing things through your creativity in the earth. This is so incredible. Now, friends, I remember in that moment that was the wrong thing for grandma to say. That was not what I was wanting grandma to say. I wanted her to be impressed with me and say, honey, this is incredible. You're so talented. It's awesome. But instead she said, honey, God is going to do amazing things through your life in your creative gifts. Family, I remember that word, that is the only word from my grandma that I can remember that was something that was of a spiritual nature and a prophetic declaration. But it has stuck with me my entire life. And now here you are watching this video and countless other expressions of creative releases in my life that have served to change things at international levels. It's so incredibly beautiful to see how my grandma, in that one expression of a prophetic declaration in my life, and that it was life-giving, that it was a question of faith, and now here in this era, grandma's word is still living on in me. Now the other one then is my friend Josh, in that one day I was at Barnes & Noble when I was still a single dude. I was writing, and I would write for hours and hours and to my future wife. And in that time period was studying through the book of Song of Songs. I memorized the entire book. That it is so captivated my heart with this expression of a bridegroom love being expressed to his bride, and that God was restoring my life, healing my heart in him as I realized that I was a part of his bride, and that he looked on me in holy love, and that I captivated the heart of Jesus. I was so taken with this book at that time. But friends, so many people, when they engage the book of Song of Songs, it's so off-putting for them that they don't have a grid or a context to think of a bridegroom King Jesus looking on them, especially as men, that he's looking on with ardent love, captivated by the beauty of holiness that's in our lives. As I was pressing into those things, that it was a place where I felt so lonely at that time period that people weren't celebrating the things that I was learning on a wide scale. But as I was in Barnes & Noble, writing about these things, so captivated by the heart of God, I run into my friend Josh, and he's like, Elijah, what are you doing here, man? Like, what are you up to today? And I was like, how are you doing? Let's pivot. Talk about your life. He then told me that he was there looking for a book on a sermon series that he was moving into, but then he pivoted back right about to me and said, Elijah, how are you doing? What are you doing here in Barnes & Noble today? I authentically stepped out in faith and told my friend Josh that I was writing about the book of Song of Songs that had so captivated my heart, and that I was memorizing the entire book, and that was just radicalizing my view of who Jesus was. And as I spoke, that his face began to shift a little bit. I said, Elijah, God has laid on my heart for years to write a book about the Song of Songs. And because of your declaration here today, I've started monkeying around with it and writing it, but I haven't gone full send. But Elijah, today I'm going full send. I'm writing my book. It was a number of months later that then he sent me his book, Pieces of Eden. And in the acknowledgments that he mentions me, that he said, acknowledge my good friend Elijah Scheidler, who agreed to read portions of this work late in the game. And his encouragement came at just the right moment to help me to persevere and to not give up. Family, that in that one expression of a faith declaration, a prophetic utterance by faith, to my friend, that it was the grace that he needed to move forward to do the good works that our Father had been asking him to do. And that I was able to encourage him forward to do the good works that God had called him to do, to please our Father's heart, to release grace to others so that they can know the Father more. Family, then, in this last week, it was so beautiful then, my friend Carling, as in last week's video, I was just so overwhelmed in the goodness of God that he had released in my life through her, that I sent her an encouragement video to build her up in the Lord. And as I did, and I was editing my video, the Father came to me and said, Elijah, when was the first time that you met with your friend Carling and Mark to talk about her moving forward in this passion of hers to pursue the supernatural at Bethel's School of the Supernatural Ministry? I said, I don't know, Father. I don't know if I can figure that out, but I will. I'll check it out. Friends, I jumped into my phone, and the very first text that I had sent to her to have that meeting was on August 20th, 2017. August 20th. My mind was absolutely blown, friends, because moving forward, that when I met with her in Bethel on the Sunday when my wife and I went to Bethel after the 3.5-year period of extraordinary life with Elijah was over, that her husband Noah was leading worship that Sunday night. And as I watched him, that I was like, wow, that's Carling's husband. Oh my goodness, Carling and Noah live in Redding. I wonder if she's here. Texted her. And my text went out on, August 20th, and she was there at my finish line, getting ready to start her start line of her next season, moving on to New York. Family, as my heart began to race. My mind is just exploding. God, you are so incredibly good. 6 years later to the day, like what in the world that he then said, and Elijah, your midpoint meeting with her, when you met at Treeline in the Lark, what date was that when you guys met? Family, I typed it into my phone and the appointment popped up in my calendar. Meet with Carling at Treeline, August 20th, 2019. Friends, that's when we sat down together. And Carling said, Elijah, build your boat. The Lord is saying, Elijah, build your boat. And it's out of this context of with Noah, that God gave Noah something to do that no one else around him understood. And he did it, and he did it, and he did it. I think it was like 120 years. And people are like, you moron, what are you doing? Let's go out and make fun of this guy again. And that Noah got to persevere through all of that in order to build the boat that God had called him to build. And as a result, that he preserved an expression of humanity in the earth, that then God showed favor and grace and redemption to the world of man through one man's bold pursuit by faith of what God had given him to do. Out of that then, the extra this week, that has just so built me up in the Lord. This question of faith of, is anyone going to be changed? Is anyone going to understand? Is anyone going to know? I don't care. The Lord has given me something to do. That he has said, Elijah, I've called you to do this. Find my face, please my heart, and then impart grace to others. Reach out to them in order to impart my grace to them so that they can know me more. Elijah, that's what I've called you to do. Now, friends, it doesn't always feel right and good, but it is life-giving. And family, in the same way that my friend gave me this word, Elijah, build your boat. And at the time I was like, Carling, I know exactly how that word applies in my life, but I don't know where I'm going. That God was moving us forward in this context of knitting our hearts together in His love, in His goodness, in His grace, in His glory, as He is doing something and building something in and through us that we don't even know the fullness of, but that in the fullness of time, that the things that we were closing our eyes on in mystery, that they were forward looking, but that we didn't know what they meant fully, but that we grabbed the word of the Lord, that we extended the right hand of fellowship to one another, and we're like, that feels just a little bit awkward, but I'm going to hold on to this word, close my eyes in the darkness. I have no idea what the Lord is going to do forward looking, but that in the fullness of time, that when the Lord has acted and we looked back in time and said, wow, August 20th, celebrating our friend moving out into her hunger for the supernatural with God. And then forward looking, her giving me a word, not knowing, on August 20th. And then getting to meet with her at my finish line and her start line, and to impart grace to her to move forward into what she was doing with her husband Noah in something new that God had given them to build. But that in that context, then closing our eyes again and saying, but we don't know what the Lord is doing forward looking, but man, we can absolutely see backwards everything that God has been doing up until now to move us forward. So fam, whatever God has given you to do it with all of your might. Whether it's looking at pictures that your kids and grandkids are giving to you and you're just speaking prophetically without even knowing it, like Caiaphas the high priest, and you're just like, I declare that God is going to change things in the earth through your creative gifts. Great. Thank you, Grandma. And that you're moving along and you're just hanging out, walking through life, loving Jesus, doing what He's given you to do, and that the words that He's given you may not be the most palatable to the people around you, but that you declare, I love this and God is doing it, and that grace goes out before you to hit the lives of other people, to do the good works that they have been called to do, and that as you're moving forward, then you receive these expressions from people that sometimes you're like, man, that is not the word that I was looking for. That does not feel right, but man, it is life-giving. That you would, like Jesus' disciples when He challenges them, are you guys gonna leave me too? 6,000 people just walked away from me, and are you guys gonna abandon me too? And that Petey says, Lord, where would we go? You have the words of life. And that Jesus says, that's awesome. Thanks for getting a hold of my hand and letting me lead you forward, but one of y'all is a devil. In that context, it doesn't feel right, but that Jesus takes your right hand with His right hand of fellowship and says, yea, buddy, though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, fear no evil, for I am with you. Fam, if you subscribe to what I am doing, then hit the button, hit it, and then get it. Hit the bell as well so you get notified with the new content. And if you love this video, you didn't just like it, hit the thumbs down button. Pray blessings on all of our lives together. I love you guys lots, and I will see you in the next video.